morning to one and all present here. My name is Gail Pereira, and my co-host for today is Aditya Jinwal. And on behalf of KG Somaiya Institute of Management, I welcome you all to the 10th International HR Conference, commencing with the theme, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Making the Invisible Visible.
We are delighted to have today with us our esteemed speaker, Dr. Soundarya Rajesh, Professor V.N. Rajashekharan Pillai, the Vice-Chancellor of Somaiya Vidya Vihar University, Dr. Raman Ramachandran, the Director of KG Somaiya Institute of Management. We also welcome all the researchers present, consultants, members from the corporate, members from different institutions across the world, our faculty members, and our very own KG students. It's lovely to have you all present with us today. We'd like to inaugurate the 10th International HR Conference on an auspicious note. And so, we'd like to invite our esteemed guests to light the diya.
We now ask that everyone present rise for the Somaiya prayer.
Yeah. परमानंद प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभ्ये वाजिनीवती दीनाम् अभिद्रवतु ॐ चोदयेत्री सुनृतानां चेतन्ति सुमतीनां यज्ञं दधे सरस्वती ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधितमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै सर्वैत्र सुखिना सन्तु सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखमाप्नुयात् ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः
We'll now be going live with the 10th International HR Conference. It has been an honor for the Institute to host the IHRC for the last decade. And in keeping with this year's theme of diversity, equity, and inclusion, I'd like to start with a poem by Charles Benefield. I exclude no one, and I am strengthened by all. My name is diversity, and yes, I stand tall. Recognize me and keep me in the mix. Together, there is no problem we cannot fix. I am your best hope towards true innovation, and to many I reflect hope and inspiration. Your lives and companies will continue to change. Thus, the need for diversity and inclusion will remain.
The poem recited by you really gave us an important insight about DE&I. DE&I stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is a term used to describe policies and programs that promote the representation and participation of different groups of individuals, including people of different ages, races and ethnicities, abilities and disabilities, genders, religions, cultures, and sexual orientations. On that note, let's get started on our journey to understand DE&I.
To commence the conference, we'd like to call to the stage Professor V.N. Rajashekharan Pillai, the Vice Chancellor of Somaiya Vidya Vihar University. Professor Pillai has been at the helm of affairs of many higher educational and scientific research establishments. For the last 47 years of service as a teacher, researcher, professor, and executive head of education, science, and technology establishments in the country and abroad. We request you, sir, to address the audience present with a few words.
Dr. Soundarya Rajesh, founder of Avatar, chief guest of the day, Dr. Raman Ramachandran, Dr. Shailija Karve, my colleagues from the university, KJ Somaiya Institute of Management, distinguished participants for this 10th International Conference on Human Resources conducted by the HR department of the Institute, my dear students, other distinguished invitees, participants who are attending this conference from different countries through Zoom. Let me welcome all of you to the Somaiya Vidya Vihar University. I understand that this particular conference is 10th in the series, and this today's conference, has the theme Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. In constantly evolving societies, these factors are very important. When it comes to a university, we define as a university is open to people, open to places, and open to ideas. Diversity in education institutions is very important. Diversity in establishments of all kinds is very important. It is not just representing people from different countries or different belief systems. We have to just look at the ideas, diverse ideas propagating in our education institutions. There should be space for probably contradicting beliefs, contradicting ideas, and only when a real synthesis of different ideas and different thinkings go into an education institution, the knowledge will grow. If you just look at world over, the institutions have come up because of their sustained diversity. Nowadays, even institutions are rated, counting to what extent the diversity is existing in those institutions. If you just look at the G20 document also, we can see a lot of strategies and activities proposed for enhancing the diversity inclusion of the institutions, or in institutions. How to promote diversity? We need to look into nature only to get an example of seeing the diversity. If diversity is not there, probably growth will not be there even in the organic systems, not only in the artificial systems. I'm a chemist. We say entropy is the measure of the disorder of a system. But entropy is necessary for growth. And this disorder, which is happening in society, is because of the diversity. And without that entropy, the growth, sustained growth, is not possible. Education, we say, is for enhancing the quality of life and life management systems. Look at life around. No, I'm not mentioning about the life sciences, life as a whole, the universe as a whole. The universe is the model which we have to follow for, probably practicing diversity, for preventing exclusiveness, for improving inclusivity. So we see such things. And if we are not in tune. If our organizations, institutions are not in tune with this natural diversity, I think we are maybe some sort of artificial constructs, artificial constructs. The organic linkages which has come, of course, I don't want to speak about the different types of diversities and all that. Even institutions now count diversity. I was there in a university very recently. They just look at the student diversity, staff diversity, language diversity, belief system diversity, age diversity, all these things we are looking, and then they are arriving at a parameter that is that is the diversity or inclusivity index of this institution. And this is for, of course, in a constantly evolving society, when things are getting changed, there is need of definite, deliberate, some sort of a deliberate advocacy and execution methods for diversity, because even in subject disciplines, when of course I started as a teacher maybe 50 years ago, when we had only universities at that time. Now even in subjects we have maybe management universities, there an engineering university, pharmacy university, that technical university, this university, that university, for every discipline. But now the national education policy says that we have to bring them all these things together again. So this is probably particularly a higher education institution, not a higher education, an education institution should give the model for diversities. Probably that the diversity models, inclusivity models, all this should arise from our own thinking. It has to be part and parcel of our belief and our action and our mindset. And definitely, in a very, there is no time for anything for each and every one of us. But it's so very important to promote, to identify these diversity elements, the plus of all diversity aspects, and this bring into the practitioners, bring into the students, and bring into the teachers, bring into our curriculum. That's very important. Diversity in curriculum, because we have been discussing the curriculum, diversity in curriculum. All these things are very important. And when a management institution, and particularly the human resource department of that management institution, conduct this conference, it has utmost relevance. We have to just look at the HR capabilities. And let me congratulate each and every one of you, the organizers of this conference, and the chief guests for accepting our institution. Our institution, of course, as Vice Chancellor of the university, I would say a few lines about our university also. This institution, Somaiya Vidyavihar, is established in 1942. Padma Bhushan K.J. Somaiya started as a primary school, and now we have 34 institutions of diverse kinds. Arts, humanities, social sciences, management, medicine, Ayurveda, nursing, engineering, cultural studies. For example, we have a faculty of Dharma studies. This is the only university where there is a faculty of Dharma studies. Dharma studies with the Bharatiya Sanskriti, Buddhist Center for Buddhist Studies, Center for Jainism Studies, and intercultural relations. We have also activities for promoting the livelihood opportunities for farmers. We are promoting Aboriginal arts of the country, not just Maharashtra, Aboriginal arts and crafts of the country through an institution, a Kalavidya Institute. And we have 34,000 students, maybe around 3,000 teachers, starting from primary schools to PhD programs. And if we just look at our schools alone, Polytechnic, ITI, if we just look at our schools alone, you will see Marathi medium school, English medium school, CBSE school, state syllabus schools, and all. Because all these things, in order to bring all these things together and at the same pace, it's not necessary actually. We have to promote the innate characteristic of each of the institutions, for what purpose that institution has been established, and then promote that positive thinking behind that. So we are an institution, Somaiya Vidya Vihar and the institution and the Somaiya Vidya Vihar University, and our institutions are in the forefront of promoting diversity, promoting diverse cultures, diverse languages, diverse ways of living, all these things. And therefore, we are really proud to have you here, an institution, head of an institution which promotes the diversity in different aspects of life. As a chief guest of the institution, let me welcome you also. Thank you very much. I wish the program all success.
Thank you, sir, for that wonderful address, sir. We really appreciate the views and opinions you shared. Your years of experience are indeed a credit to your deep and practical insights.
We now call upon Dr. Raman Ramachandran. He is the former chairman and managing director of BASF and head of the BASF legal entities in South Asia. He spent 22 years with BASF and held many positions of responsibility for the Asia-Pacific region and South Asian region. Dr. Ramachandran was also a member of the Asia-Pacific Business Board, Vice President, Crop Life Asia, and chaired the chemical and petrochemical groups of CII. He's also non-executive vice chairman of the board of Caliber Chemicals and independent director on board of Proclean Technologies. We request you, sir, to address the audience with a few words.
Thank you and a very good morning. And first, Professor Pillai, thank you very much. As an educationist of more than 50 years, he has seen the evolution of diversity in the educational institutions and India. So it was really good to have him start this conference. Soundarya Rajesh and I go back almost a decade. I have been privy to the monumental pioneering work that she and our organization, Avatar, has been doing in the area of diversity. And as a head of BASF, I had the opportunity to be associated with this organization and learn a lot, and that helped us move a little bit forward in terms of diversity at our organization. So this is a favorite topic of mine. I have a lot of stories. I can stand here and talk for the next maybe 30 minutes. She knows about it. But I won't take that much time. But I do have to talk about a couple of very, very important points. And let me start with equity. I think there was very recently a report that was alarming and also told us Indians a little bit about equity or lack thereof in this country. Any of the students remember what I'm referring to? In the World Economic Forum in Davos, Oxfam released a report on inequity in India. All of you should read it, because it said that 40% of India's wealth is owned by 1% of the individuals or Indians. Okay? 70% of the wealth that has been created in the last 10 years was distributed only with 10%. And the bottom 30%, the increase in their wealth was only about 3%. Is such an inequity good for a country? It's not, because we are standing on the verge of revolution and social unrest if such inequities continue. Okay? So Oxfam basically has told the Indian government and Nirmala Sitharaman, please introduce wealth tax, right? So that's the kind of regulatory pressures that will come if this kind of inequity continues. And particularly the students who are studying here are a very privileged lot, and you will belong to the top 1 or 2%. And why I say this is, there's nothing wrong with creating wealth, but please remember that the society will be better off if you also have the attitude to redistribute this wealth. And hence, for example, that's a legacy that our founder, K.J. Somaiya, we won't be here if he had decided to keep all the wealth for his progenies and for his children and grandchildren, right? I mean, he had the vision to reinvest that into educational institutions like this. So some of us could continue the work here. So that's about inequity. So inequity is not very good. So very, very topical topic, I would say. And if there is a vision for equity, the vision is that if every one of us could go to the nearest school and not look for the most expensive father's school to send our children, I think we would have an equitable society. If every one of us could go to any part of India, pick up a glass of water and drink it and not be worried about diarrhea and jaundice and typhoid, we would have an equitable society. Okay? So that's about equity, and I want to now move on to diversity. And again, I want to pick up a recent event. How many of you are marathon runners? Anyone here? What happened in Mumbai? Did you run a marathon last week? Yeah, so we had Tata Mumbai Marathon. One of the longest running marathons in the world is the Boston Marathon. That's been running for about 100 years. How many of you knew that it was only in 1976 that women were allowed to run in Boston Marathon? Yeah. In 1967, there was a woman called Catherine Schweitzer who wanted to run the marathon, but she had to dress up as a man to run in the marathon, and halfway along the way, the authorities tried to stop her. And she, being a runner, she outran the authorities and actually finished the marathon. Okay? So this is a real story. Right? So just imagine, that's where we come from. So we have made a lot of progress, but still there is tremendous more progress that needs to be achieved on the whole area of diversity. Particularly in a country like India, gender diversity to me has always been extremely important, while other diversities are equally important. I think even in gender diversity, there is a long way to go. So I'm going to talk about just two more small stories, one of which is going back to 1982 when I went to study in Australia, and Rajesh, you might remember this story. I mentioned this in one of your forums. I was boarding in a house of a lady by name Prue Lamotte, who at the age of 55 was studying BSc in BA Sociology. And she was taking on boarders, and she interviewed, and she said, okay, you can come, we'll give you a room, but there are some rules in this house, and some were about keeping the kitchen clean, etc. But then she said one rule which really threw me off. She said there is, in this house, the word mankind cannot be used. And I was like stunned, and I said, why? No, I am a very strong feminist, and I don't like words like mankind. I said, look, just the use of the word mankind doesn't mean anything. So she said, young man, you are a naive young fellow. Language has a huge implication on how you think and how your emotions work. And today I learned that in the Scandinavian countries, there is actually a gender-neutral language that is being developed. And many of my colleagues here know, I abhor terms like sir, because I believe that is that's a word that makes you feel subservient. That's a word in an institution would curb innovation and creativity. Because especially in academic institutions, words like sir, any subservient words should not be used. And I think this is a great topic for research, and I think we all should think about whether there is an opportunity to research, and the young amongst you really should reflect on this. So my last story is during my time as the head of BSF, which is a big multinational chemical corporation. Every organization has stereotypes, right? Yes, we want to increase gender diversity. Let's hire more women in HR. Maybe finance also would work. Let's get a few CFA women. We'll increase the diversity. Manufacturing, no way. But when I was there, I had the pleasure of having one of my team members, Ashima Sushil Chandra, who studied in Surathkal, chemical engineering, and really wanted to be in the manufacturing. Unlike many women and men who study chemical engineering and want to get into banks, she actually wanted to be in the chemical world and more importantly, run the plant, be actually in manufacturing. So I had an opportunity. I was looking for a head of a plant in Thane, which is a 50-year-old plant, which has got two very militant unions and whose EHS or safety track record was not very good over the last 50 years. But I took the bold decision of putting Ashima Sushil Chandra as head of that manufacturing plant. She ran it for the next 5 years, and in that 5 years, it became one of the best in EHS. It had the highest productivity in the history because she was a strong lady who donned the uniform of the factory workers, worked with the labor unions, and really transformed that. So all these mental stereotypes of where women can work no longer are true. So with that, I really wish a great conference, and I'm looking forward to some very good recommendations about how our curriculum can improve on these topics, and how we can also think of some very important research topics and policies that we can make, with which we can use and approach governments and other policymakers for a better balanced world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ramachandran, for your wise words and thoughts to our audience. Your thoughts on the importance of acceptance and equity in the country will undoubtedly benefit us in our corporate careers.
We also have with us today Professor Shailaja Karve. She was the chairperson of the OBHR area, as well as the chairperson of the admissions committee. Professor Karve has close to 37 years of academic experience and has been part of numerous research papers. She is also the co-author of the book, Role Stress and Coping with Role Stress as Influencers of Role Efficacy. We request ma'am to address the audience with a few words.
Thank you, Humanist, and thank you, conference conveners, for giving me this opportunity. On behalf of the HR department and the CDMI Center, that is the Center for Diversity and Inclusion, I welcome you all to the 10th HR conference. Good morning, Professor Pillai and Professor Raman, and our guest of honor, Dr. Soundarya Rajesh. I know that I'm standing between you and Soundarya, and you're impatient to hear her, and as I'm impatient to listen to her, I will say my two-bit. And I've been indeed privileged since I came to Mumbai to work in a place, atmosphere of belongingness, where there is a climate of inclusiveness and a culture wherein diversity is norm rather than an exception. So KJ Somaiya Institute of Management, the Somaiya Vidya Vihar University, and the Somaiya Vidya Vihar is an amalgamation of all these possibilities. And this is a place where people can realize their potential. This is an experience that I live, and so do my colleagues. I look forward to each one of you who are a participant in this conference, who will realize your potential and contribute in your own way and experience this in your life. Diversity, inclusiveness, equity is all about seamlessness, where we do not need to put it in policies, have activities around it, and it should be natural to the self. The day we stop having courses, conferences, panel discussions, parades, protests on issues related to DEI, we have arrived. The day we stop having courses on cross-cultural management, sensitization programs, reservations, we have arrived. The day we start perceiving the world around us devoid of differences and honor the subtleties, we have arrived. I invite you to see the journey of the IHRC across the years since its inception to the 10th International HR Conference on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. This is the 10th one and a very important one, and we just take you through a short film on that. Thank you. Escort, sir. Sir, sir, you can. Get me the remote. Sir, remote.
क्या करना है? दे दे। We also have present with us the conveners of the conference, Professor Vidya Thakkar and Professor Nikhil Mahindru. We would like to call to the stage Professor Nikhil Mahindru for a brief introduction and context setting. Sir, over to you.
I think we just heard no sir, please, just Nikhil. Dignitaries on the dais. We're really fortunate that we have amidst us the founder of Avatar. And I found the inspiration for introduction in Avatar the movie. I'm not an expert in the field, so I thought, jo andar ehsaas ya jazba hai, why not use the movie to just sum up? And I'll do it fast because I know we are standing in between. So if you look at the movie Avatar, we know the main protagonist, Jake Sully. When Jake Sully arrived at the RDA group, the human group that really wanted to destroy Pandora or obtain the unobtainium, this is how he arrived, right? And everybody looked down upon him. He was differently abled, but for them, he was disabled. He couldn't walk. His very own boss, Dr. Grace, felt that in the race to win the trust of Navis and negotiate, this man is useless. She found no value and wanted to get rid of him, but then she had no choice because they had invested in his avatar. And then he actually went on to Pandora. And when he reached Pandora, the first thing that happened there as well is that Netiri, the Navi, was about to kill him. Why? Because he did not belong. He did not belong to that world yet again. But it was the sign from Eva, as you see, the white color symbol from Eva. And Eva is the guiding force at Pandora, their only deity, who sent a signal that here is a man with courage and a pure heart. And therefore, she did not really kill him. There was a point in the movie we know that he was the only hope of the humans to win the trust of the Navi so that there is no destruction and they can get them out. But more importantly, for the Navis, he finally became the Turuk Maktu, the person who actually saved the Pandora, isn't it? Let's reflect in our lives. Every time we see around, don't we see a Jake Sully? Someone whom we found to be incompetent, someone whom we find to be disabled, but we don't see the essence of the ability or the unique perspective and ability that that person brings to the table. I'm sure we have those Jake Sullys in our families and our communities, in our corporate and our institutions. In this world, there is no Eva, but there is one. And in this conference, in Hindi, whenever we want to applaud something, we say, "Eh wah, kya talent hai? Eh wah, kya insight hai?" So we will witness those wonderful eh wah insights through these research papers, through these case studies, through the inspiration from Dr. Soundarya Rajesh, who lives, eats and breathes DEI. Dr. Ritu Anand, right, who is heading the DEI for one of the largest institutions in the country. And every time that happens, I'm sure we will say Eva. Finally, the Turuk Maktu. It means the rider of the last shadow. Which is the largest shadow that spells and makes us blind? Our unconscious biases, the stereotypes. And if we have to be the rider of the last shadow, we have the DEI workshop by Axis Bank. It will help us identify and get deconditioned and do away with those stereotypes. The best thing I liked about Avatar is that the Navis were always together. So first of all, thank you. We have all been together. Your sheer presence here is enabling livelihoods because the kit itself that you got, the first thing that you walked in, is helping the beneficiaries through Enactus, the tribals who have actually made all the things that are part of the kit. And they used to always pray together, hold their hands and pray together. We will end this conference by playing hand drums together and experiencing the power of DEI. With that, we open the conference, and now I won't stand between the founder of the real Avatar. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for providing us those wonderful comments and insights and linking Avatar with DE&I.
It is our honor to introduce to you the keynote speaker for today, Dr. Soundarya Rajesh, who is founder-president at Avatar. Dr. Rajesh has pioneered the concept of second career programs in India to help gauge career breaks and second career options for women. Besides her work in creating and filling opportunities for women, she has created DEI solutions through Avatar, Business Consulting for Diversity, and has worked on the country's largest gender analytics study, Best Companies for Women in India. Dr. Rajesh has been recognized under the 100 Women Achievers by India's Ministry of Women and Child Development and is listed in the United Nations as Women Transforming India. Along with mentoring and working with corporate leaders through Project Putri, she has worked towards empowering young girls from underprivileged backgrounds towards career-driven paths. We welcome you to the stage, ma'am.
Good morning. It's just fantastic being here with all of you. And I'm so grateful to Vidya and to Nikhil. And of course, very good, amazing coincidence of meeting Dr. Raman here. And to realize that everything that goes, in the space of something like diversity, equity, and inclusion, which we are trying to make, not so ephemeral as people usually believe it to be, is the fact that, it brings together people like all of us, who are here. I just loved the way this entire conference has been put together, and Professor Shailaja, huge kudos to you and to the team that has really made this happen. 10 international conferences is not, thank you. Yeah, down arrow, I'll use it. It's not an easy thing. And I say this as someone, who has been at the forefront of what diversity, equity, and inclusion is today being seen as. It's a privilege for me to be here and to share a few thoughts with all of you. And I must say that when Professor Vidya reached out and said that, there is this conference, and that was almost a year ago, so I should thank her for her patience, for the innumerable conversations that happened with all of us in my team, and, the way in which there was so much of passion in putting this together. But you know what, Vidya, there are 3 reasons why I said yes to come to this conference. And the first reason is it's diversity. I mean, this is a conference about diversity, and why won't we enjoy this? This is the latest, most cutting edge, most relevant skill that you can pursue, that you can understand if you wish to really scale heights in your career. So for every student here, every young person here, and I believe most of us here in the audience, excepting the faculty, of course, are Gen Zs. So I would say that you were, born between 1997 and 2012. So that makes you a Gen Z. And there is research that states that 90% of Gen Zs actually assess an organization's social inclusive behavior as one of the factors before even choosing the job. That's brilliant. I'm a big fan of you. I'm a big fan of the Gen Z for just this one fact. And I believe that diversity, equity, and inclusion is not just something relevant to the classroom or to the corporate, it's nation-building stuff. What we're doing is nation-building stuff. When I heard Dr. Raman speak and Professor Pillai, when he spoke about the hoary legacy and history of Somaiya, the entire Somaiya Vidya Vihar University, what occurred to me is we are bringing diversity, equity, and inclusion from the realms of being a well-researched, well-respected, great topic, which everybody thinks, nice offbeat flavor it gives to conferences. We are bringing it into center stage, and we are making it the stuff of what India is going to be when we call it proudly a developed nation. And that's going to happen sheerly with the power of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Research also states this about Gen Zs. The fact that, 80% of Gen Zs feel kind of insecure, more insecure about not having their smartphone than even not having their purse. That's not the reason, that's not my second reason. My second reason is this. The fact that research provides us with all these interesting nuggets of information. It provides us with an opportunity to create those white papers, those spaces of thought, which then helps someone somewhere, get that spark of motivation and innovation, and then that translates into work, which is so different, so powerful, that it creates an entire industry by itself. We have heard of so many different amazing pieces of research. There were people, so many particle scientists, and Dr. Raman spoke about the power of chemistry And BASF's logo or sign-off used to be so beautiful about, how chemistry actually brings alive everything. I don't remember it exactly. We create chemistry. That was the logo. That was the sign-off of BASF for a sustainable world. And so, there were many scientists, particle physicists, who worked on a lot of research. But the power to make that invisible visible, which was your boson-Higgs particle, the God particle, actually was something that only the scientists at CERN could do. They were the ones that could make the invisible visible. They were the ones that could make the unseen seen. That power to think what has not been thought before, to see what has not been seen before, that is the power of research. I mean, there are multitudes of research on the influence of parents on children. But that one paper by Raj Chetty of Harvard, which said that Black American and Indian American children were more influenced by their parents than other cohorts within the USA, is such an amazing aspect of what research can really do. So there's so much that we can do in the space of research, and to all of us in the space of diversity, equity, and inclusion, one of our gods of research is Professor Daniel Kahneman, who wrote the amazing book, Thinking Fast and Slow. How many of us have read it over here? Yeah, all the faculty have read it. Folks, I need all of you to read it. It's a cool book, very, very easy to read. You'll do it within 2 days. It's a big tome, by the way, but still you will quickly read it because it's such an interesting book, Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. And there were many people who spoke about non-conscious biases. But it took Professor Kahneman to actually speak about what happens when you have a system 1 and a system 2 thinking, and why non-conscious biases, by the way, it's not unconscious bias, it is non-conscious bias. Please begin referring to it as non-conscious biases, because unconscious means your body is actually in an unconscious state. So if you have a bias or not in that stage, it doesn't matter at all. But it's when you have a bias about which you are non-conscious, meaning you are fully active and up and about, you're not comatose, right? But still, that aspect of what you hold as a bias is exhibited non-consciously. So it's called non-conscious biases, and Professor Kahneman was one of the first people, and he actually won the Nobel Prize for his work in the space of what we today call non-conscious biases, what we call stereotypes, and what is today, popularized as System 1 and System 2 thinking. Well, those are just 2 reasons that I gave you for why I immediately accepted the invitation from Vidya. My third reason is Mumbai. I just love whenever somebody invites me to Mumbai and gives me a chance to come to this beautiful city of yours, to see the city, which is the city of Bollywood, of Dalal Street, of Linking Road, Hill Road, Natraj Market. I visited all those places yesterday, by the way. Yeah? Chor Bazaar, which apparently was actually called Shore Bazaar, because of the noise that would happen around, and then the British people, amongst many other things which they left as legacy for us, changed its name to Chor Bazaar, and then it became a self-fulfilling prophecy. We just said, okay, fine, you want to call us Chor Bazaar? Well, here is it, right? So those places, you will actually see, oh, I'm so sorry, I did something over here. You will actually see the power of enterprise. And this entire thing of the power of enterprise is amazing, because when you see people who are there, yes. When you see people who, they are running, they're walking, they are hauling big, big bags, they are, trying to see, they'll bring that huge bag. No problem, No problem, Darshana. Yeah, it's there. Thank you. Yeah, I'm just going to keep it. It's unseen and shortly be seen. Yeah. So that energy there in each of those roads, the fact that those people, they'll just bring this huge haul of items, and suddenly that big bag will become an interesting display space. They will just open it and then they will arrange all of their wares over it. And, and that hustle, that ability to make a living, that energy that is so uniquely Mumbai, that is something I'm telling you, no offense to the course that you're doing here, no offense to all that you're learning, but one of the biggest MBA lessons that you can ever learn is if you just go, not for shopping, to observe all these linking roads and Hill Road and Crawford Market and everywhere else, and you will get such an incredible experience of learning of what's happening in these places. I also bought a shrug there, but I'm going to tell you about that later when we come to the end of this session. So the whole aspect of making the unseen seen is something that became the business objective of Avatar. So we are a social enterprise, and there is a big difference between normal enterprises, business enterprises, which exist only for profit, which are largely, with a capitalistic outlook, to something which is a social enterprise. A social enterprise usually begins with an emotion. And in my case, that emotion was anger. I began my career with Citibank. That was close to 3 decades ago. And it was a fantastic experience. I was among 3 of us who got placed from campus into Citibank that year, and that was 1990. And we were getting the highest package on campus, 5,000 rupees per month. And you didn't even know what you could do with that much money. I mean, what will you do with 5K per month? I decided I would buy a house. So I actually put a down payment on a house. And then the 3 M's happened: marriage, maternity, and motherhood. And then after a fast-track career, I decided to take a break. So 3 years down the line, I took a break. And the idea always was that, I'd come back eventually. The idea was not that I would kind of, permanently sort of become a homemaker, although that's a great choice too. And I'm sure many, many of us in this room have moms, have sisters, have, grandmothers, wives, those of us who have partners who have taken those breaks, those ubiquitous breaks, and then either have come back into the workplace again or have not. Now, I was one of those that wanted to, come back into the workplace. So I went ahead and began attending a bunch of interviews. Okay, and I had a lovely resume. I had fast tracker and, quick promotion and this and that and everything. And by then I had already gotten ESOPs. Citibank actually was a fabulous place to be in those days. It was one of the first companies to actually have email as a way of correspondence as compared to the memos, which would be, around. It was the first company to issue ESOPs. It was the first company to make the largest acquisition, which is today known as Diners. But back then we said that's how, Citibank taught India to get into debit, to start becoming a country that could actually use your credit cards and debit cards in a way. And subsequently, when I decided to come back and started attending interviews, I realized that this break was a huge challenge that became a non-conscious bias in the minds of people who were interviewing me. They looked at my profile. When they assessed me, they found that I was capable. They realized that I could do very well in whichever job that they gave me, but they were not ready to let go of the fact that there was a break in the career. that break was a great leverage for a lot of the interviewers. You know, it was something with which they could negotiate. It was something with which they could speak about the fact that I didn't know what I wanted to do, that I could take that break again, and the fact that I was not career primary. You see, in India, women are broadly of three categories. This is what research tells us. Career primary, career and home, home primary. So your career primary women professionals, they are about 12 to 18% in India. These are women, and they are found largely in metros like Mumbai and Bangalore, NCR, to some extent maybe in Chennai, Hyderabad, and so on. These are women who take decisions keeping their career as primary. So every decision that kind of, you know, falls through in their life, every decision that ensues has their career as a primary, you know, space within their minds, their lives, their work, everything. And then you have the home primary women. So the home primary women really don't want a career, you know, they're happy chilling at home. But then there is some kind of a stressor that's there at home. Could be a mother-in-law, I don't know. Could be, you know, lack of income, could be some other challenge, right? And then they feel that they cannot stay at home, and they then come to the workplace. But their stint at the workplace is not for long. The minute that stressor is no longer there or becomes irrelevant, they are happy to go back home. And then you have this huge cohort of women in the middle, which is called the career and home model. This career and home model, women professionals, they constitute almost about 60% of women in India. And these women want both. They want a great career, they want to be a fabulous homemaker, they want to be a lovely mother, they want to cook those exotic meals you see on MasterChef which never turn out the way that they show over there. And you know, that is what these women want. They want both. And so, that woman, the career and home model woman professional, she takes breaks. She takes at least one break. 48% of all Indian women under the age of 30 take a career break at least once. Some of them take many breaks. 18% come back into the workplace. That's all. Can you imagine the number that got educated, had a good career stint for a while, but subsequently could not make it back? And there are multiple reasons. One such reason was this. I got a low-paid position for a job that was exactly what I had been doing before. It was not that it was a new job and there was a skilling time frame and that's why, you know, they were offering me a lower pay. No, it was identical to what I had done 3 years before. So I was skilled at it, I was good at it, but I had a break on my resume. And that being used as a leverage was something that I couldn't really, you know, it caused that emotion of anger. Because that was considered a liability, and because I was offered that low pay, I began thinking. That anger really turned into some kind of reflection to say that, hey, I can't be the only woman in India or in South India or in Chennai or even in Mylapore where I'm from to be someone who is actually penalized because she took a break. And what is the loss for organizations on this count? You have organizations that want great talent. They want talent that will pursue careers intentionally. They want people who have experience and who have other kinds of experience as well. The maturity that you get when you're a mom, when you're a homemaker, when you're a wife, the kind of generational intelligence that you would have. Why is a corporate not looking at the possibilities of hiring back these women was a thought that came into my mind, and that was the birth of Avatar. Thank you. That was in 2000. And what started off as the journey of one woman who felt angry at a pay inequity that was given to her because of a career break led to India's largest second career movement. We pioneered the advent of second career women into every industry in India. We started off with banking and financial services because that's what I was familiar with. And then we moved on to every industry, IT, ITES, BPO, FMCG, manufacturing. And I'm glad to tell you some of the toughest industries today technically for women, which typically, like Dr. Raman was mentioning, and his story is so powerful every time I hear it, of one of his mentees becoming the head of the plant here in Thane. Like that, some of the difficult industries have today adopted the practice of hiring women who are returning from breaks. So that's really the story of Avatar. Now, I just wanted to share with you that this is not just the story of Avatar, but it's also something relating to research. Thank you so much. One of the things that we did, when I say we, I'm talking about the small group of 5 of us who started Avatar. We actually immediately got into studying the market. Today you have unicorns and soonicorns, and you have many, many different kinds of organizations which are just rising up with regard to attracting investments and so on. Back then, that was not the case. You had to make money by selling your product to a client, and that was probably the only sure way of making money. And what we had to do was to try and create actual value. They say that the success of a business is in value creation and in value capturing. So that value creation had to emerge from how we positioned second career women as a talent alternative to organizations that were truly having what we call the war for talent at that time. In fact, interestingly, they used to say back when we were working with Citibank, trespassers would be recruited. Because that was the extent of, hunger for talent that was there. And how can organizations completely be, find invisible this talent pool that's actually there and that can contribute to such a large extent to India's growth plans. So that's what we did. But that's not all. Seeing the unseen is very important. I mean, you're all researchers, and I hope many of you will be very, very dedicated, committed researchers through life. And you can be researchers even if you are a professional. You can be a researcher. You can continue to research even if you hold a full-time day job, because researching and understanding why things are the way they are is one of the most magnificent ways of making sure that you are never redundant. That your work ethos, your value is never ever second guessed. That happens when you are a researcher for life. And being a researcher, which is actually seeing the unseen, also helps you, do a bunch of things. When you research, you gain greater credibility. Imagine just going and talking to somebody without doing any research. And then imagine reading up on it, right? Having your data together, putting a nice little PPT, even if it's in your own mind, and then going and pitching. You see Shark Tank today, right? Can you imagine the extent of research that would have gone on behind every single one of those pitches to actually end up before the sharks, right? So greater credibility, greater discernment. You begin to sift between what is real, what is unreal, what is just, ephemeral, and what has that depth. You begin to sift through all of that, and that helps you get better discernment. Obviously, your knowledge grows. I mean, imagine writing a paper. Can you imagine the kind of work, Professor Vidya or Professor Nikhil would have done when they even put together the content for this. The content research is a big, big deal. Actually arriving at how would sessions flow, what would happen is an incredible thing that, people like Professor Nikhil and Professor Vidya do. So it actually gives you greater knowledge and it creates wonderful networks. We all are part of that network here today. But even more important is helping the unseen to be seen. I'm just going to take a minute to say hi to two lovely people who have come in. Yes, of course, I know Harish. Dr. Soundarya Rajesh. We haven't met in person, but we have spoken a lot. Yes. And we follow each other on Twitter as well. Yeah. Okay, so, and it's so fortuitous that I should have him come in at this moment when I'm talking about helping the unseen to be seen. And that is simply crucial. Thank you so much, for your presence here. And every time I see you, I remember that entire journey and all that you have done, not only for yourself, but for the entire community. She is incredible. Big round of applause. So what does that really do? What does helping the unseen to be seen do? It creates all of this. It helps have a more inclusive culture within the organization, careers for the marginalized. It helps correcting wrongs, traditional, historic wrongs. And like I was mentioning at the beginning, it's basically a nation-building act, isn't it? Aren't we creating a country that's going to be so much more resilient, powerful, when we are able to bring together every aspect of of the society as we know it and of talent as well, right? So I think there are so many non-conscious biases that exist, and it's good for all of us to be aware of where we see it, both, within the college, in an academic environment, as well as at the workplace. Now, one of the things that we are doing at Avatar is we are now working with organizations, with educational institutions, to help them actually create a very, very inclusive educational experience for students. And what we see is so many of the differences, the diversity within students, they become a challenge for the faculty. And that, kind of translates when we move into the workplace. And at the workplace, gender, about which I have spent a lot of my life in researching and in understanding about what causes India's poor women's workforce participation, what causes women to drop off so often, we find that the root of all of that are non-conscious biases. This is a very interesting image that all of us would recognize, and it's the story of the 6 people who are visually challenged and who each had one, part of the elephant, so to speak, and they were making guesses, out of what it would really be. And this is why research becomes important. Here is our favorite Professor Kahneman and his 2 methods that he speaks about, the system 1 and system 2 thinking. Imagine you take a vehicle, you're driving it, it's a car or a bike, and you take the same route from your home to the college. How many of us do that? How many of us are day scholars and we come here, taking the same route? Yeah, there are a few of us, yes. So, at a point of time, that route becomes so familiar to all of us that you could actually be hearing music, or you could be, listening to something. If you're driving a car, you have your FM radio on, or if you are, coming on a bike, you know exactly where everything is, which pothole is. You automatically kind of, slow there. That's how it is. Imagine one day you're coming, and out of nowhere, a kid just jumps right in front of your vehicle. At that moment, you are shocked into greater awareness. You suddenly stop for a minute, and it's as if you're looking around and seeing that road for the first time. You kind of realize that, hey, this building never used to be like this, something's happened here. And then you look at the tree and say, oh my God, the tree is completely blossomed. It's full of flowers. And you become aware of that same route you've been taking for 5 years. Just because that kid crossed and you had to jam your brakes. And that brings you into system 2 thinking. Till then, what you were doing was system 1. You were going through just like that. And that's exactly what we do when we interact with people. Our interactions, our assessment, our judgments of people has a lot to do with all of that knowledge, which is actually bias in disguise, which we have over here, and which allows us to quickly make those decisions. You know, the neurons sort of sync like that, and we make those decisions quickly, subconsciously, non-consciously, automatically. That automatic thinking is absolutely the bane of inclusion. If we want inclusion, then we have to challenge system 1 thinking, not only in ourselves, but within the environment around us as well. System 2 thinking is very here and now. Now I see all of you, and I see some of you are very, very hooked on to what I'm saying, and I can make that out by your smiles and your nods and everything else. And I do see some of you, not going to point and all that, who are not as hooked to this. And so they are kind of, there in their own minds, probably thinking of something that happened. Maybe what happened in Georgia and Ginny episode. And then did Stranger Things really end that way? I don't know. I'm like, kind of wondering. And, seriously, these both should be together. And all of those thoughts, which when suddenly somebody crosses you or somebody points this out, you're here. You then are nowhere else, but you're here in this classroom, physically and mentally. That is system 2 thinking. So when we look at how system 1 and system 2 thinking are utilized in many, many ways around us, you will find that we are the recipients of a lot of marketeers, a lot of companies who use our own biases against us. If we are not wary, if we are not cautious, if we don't practice system 2 thinking always, then we are likely to be what they call bakras, right? So there are a dozen non-conscious biases about which we have to be careful. If you visit www.avatarinc.com, that's AVTARINC.com, and search for Dirty Dozen, you'll get a brilliant article which talks about the 12 top biases. And the beautiful thing about non-conscious biases, not beautiful, the easy thing about non-conscious biases is that the minute you become aware, you're almost 50% kind of cured. It's not like you have to undergo deep training or anything. You just have to see it. You just have to read those 12 biases. What happens in the companies we consult with? They just take a printout of the 12 biases, stick it on their desks. Whenever there is an appraisal, whenever there is a selection, whenever there is hiring, and they go through it once, kind of refresher for the brain, sweep off all the biases, clean it, all the dirty dozen gone, and then you are cleansed to look at everything with clear vision, right? So 3 quick biases. I'm very conscious of time because I think we ran a little behind, so I'm kind of hurrying a little bit. But you all know where to find me. I'm on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn, but a little lazy there. Twitter, I'm better. And Insta, I'm there, but pointless. What photos will I put over there and all that? Yeah. So I think you can choose Twitter. I'm also trying to build my audience in Twitter, so please follow me. Yeah. So you can find these 3, biases, which are very, very popular, and we all kind of, we would immediately accept or we would immediately agree that these are biases that constantly show up whenever we are taking a decision. Confirmation bias. Who do you like better? The friend who agrees with you or the friend who constantly challenges you? The friend who constantly challenges you would probably be right. would probably be well read, would probably have a really good opinion, but that person is not agreeing with you. Confirmation bias. I prefer someone who agrees. Availability bias. Oh, there are many, many things that you can do, okay, on a day where it's off and you have Mumbai to explore, but which is nearby, which is available, which is immediately accessible, that becomes your choice. Now that's okay when you're sightseeing in Mumbai, but when you're hiring someone and instead of really searching, looking for people, right, who fit what you want and who bring in different aspects of diversity, if you go for the first available person, then what does that mean? That's availability bias. Recency bias. You know, very, very popular in sales-driven organizations. There is someone who's done very well for 3 months, okay, the last quarter, 3 months, and they are the golden person. And then there is someone who did very well 2 other quarters, but the last quarter didn't do well. Sorry, not up for promotion, not up for a good rating. Why? Recency bias. Now, the fact is, all of us, you know, when we are in a workplace, when we are in the classroom, when we are kind of, you know, getting our hold on this world and we are trying to navigate in it, I think it's important for us to understand these biases. No, but don't become a pain and constantly call it out, you know, with your friends. Because then what will happen is they'll start kind of hating on you and they'll hate on me as well for having taught you all these biases. Be aware. Be very, very aware. Understand that this is what's happening around you and this is what's being, you know, and in some cases you're being played, right? So when it comes to hiring, when it comes to inclusive hiring, there is a big difference. Hiring is just, you know, looking at what a person brings to the table. Inclusive hiring is being very aware that it should not become a system 1 decision and it should be a system 2. See, I came into this lovely classroom and I'm sure each of you, after you saw me, would have made an opinion about me in your minds, right? And if I were to tell you, say, 2 or 3 facts about myself, you would immediately tell this is a truth and this is a lie about me, right? And how does that judgment emerge? That emerges because you have within your head accumulated so much of information and so much of, you know, data points that tell you that X is equal to Y. What's that blank space in the middle? That's where you should bring system 2 thinking, but invariably that doesn't happen and X becomes equal to Y, whereas X is not equal to Y. So those are the aspects that we do when we actually work with corporates. But as researchers, I would urge you to keep these points in mind. I'm also addressing myself to the audience that has joined us over Zoom. And I know that many, many researchers from around the country are here. And I'd like to share with all of you that when you embark upon any research, it's very important to check your biases. But when you embark upon research on DEI, then I think it becomes crucial that you look at what could probably dilute or pollute the one truth that you're looking for. And all of these points, you know, make a lot of sense in that perspective. And on the topic of different kinds of researches in the space of DEI that you could do, and Dr. Raman was speaking about it in the morning, when he said, what are those kinds of researches? What are those topics that we could talk about? These topics are absolutely relevant, important, and one that corporates will be very, very keen, you know, to support. What are the kind of barriers that are faced by underrepresented talent pools, and how can we, bust those preconceived notions? How can we look at pay equity if you do a great research on pay equity, I mean, I'm just giving you an idea here, just for the students of, KJSIM. If you could look at pay equity in your own seniors, right, your own alumni, and just look at, what is the difference in the pay earned by men versus women, you would have a lovely paper ready and you would have a lot of insights from it. Similarly, intersectional data. Intersectional data is becoming today more and more important because all of us realize we are not one unidimensional identity. I could be a woman, I could be a mother, I could be a lesbian, I could be a single parent, I could be someone that is the sole earning member of my family. And if all of these identities come together, then they cause a certain worldview that I bring to the table, which is very different if each of these identities were seen in isolation. So that's a great area for research. Likewise, how can we solve, and this is my favorite, how can we solve problems on the ground for women who are not represented in the workplace? Can't we all come together to look at how can we create more career opportunities for women? And this invitation is for both men and women. At Avatar, we do a lot of research. In fact, all of our tools, frameworks, all of our workshops are built on the core foundation of research. That would be amazing. And of course, any avenue where DEI can impact, and if you were to do a study on that, that would be great too. So all of these are areas where research on DEI is going to impact. All of these are plum research topics that corporates find a great value in. I'm not just talking about us as the researcher fraternity. I'm talking about taking these ideas, like we said, how can you see the unseen? How can you think the unthought? And can you take that as a service to a corporate? Can you do that? I did that. So can we do that is something that you can see in all of these research implications. So here's an open invitation to all of you to partner with us. Please come forward. I've already invited Professor Vidya, Professor Nikhil, and everyone. And of course, Dr. Raman being there is amazing, awesome. So we know that there's ton loads of work to be done here. And please feel free to connect. Please feel free to write to us. This, by the way, is the first and only Indian journal exclusively for, I won't use the word reserved, exclusively for inclusion. So it's on diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's something we had put together long before COVID, and then some unfortunate things happened. A couple of people on the editorial board actually passed away during COVID, so we had to kind of put it on the back burner. But now, happy to kind of resurrect this again, and hoping that many of us will have an opportunity to be showcased on Diversity and Inclusion Journal India. So that brings me to kind of the end of my story. Here's what we did when we shone the spotlight on the unseen. We launched India's first ever second career re-entry program in 2006 after in-depth research on it. And happy to share with you, we just finished placing our 100,000th placement. So that's 100,000 women, second career women who have re-entered the workplace. Through Avatar's work on understanding non-conscious biases, we launched the first cultural audit and assessment for DEI in 2009. By now, we have got several hundred organizations for whom we have done that. We created India's first skill-based conference for women. Again, I think every conference has resulted in about 400 women getting placed in different industries. Again, career intentionality program, which emerged after great deal of research for women in 2015. Many of my colleagues who are today joining us on Zoom, you know who you are. They've done some tremendous work on this. And we created India's largest diversity benchmarking exercise, the best companies for women in India and the most inclusive companies index. All of these are ways in which we have made the unseen seen. And here we have Project Putri that we, Dr. Raman, and even during my introduction you spoke about, which is India's first developmental project aimed at underprivileged girls to make them career intentional. So our answer to corporate India's requirement for more and more women to enter the workplace is to make sure that we empower the young girls who live in below poverty line families, who are underprivileged, young girls between 13 to 18 who we train on career intentionality and other technical skills. And as on date, 10,000 young girls per year are trained on this. That's Project Putri. We created Most Inclusive Companies Index. Axis Bank is on it. My Avatar is India's first portal for diverse talent. And in that, we create networking opportunities, we create skilling opportunities, and we create job creation opportunities for India's underrepresented talent. And very, very recently, Dr. Raman, I'm going to send you a copy of this later. We announced the top cities for women in India. And no bias was there, but Chennai came on top. I mean, we didn't do anything. None of the things was queered or anything. But Chennai was #1 because of its long history of supporting, inequality, of supporting the, not inequality, supporting the removal of inequality, supporting women and women's causes. For all of that, and it has 2 scores, the social inclusion score and the industrial inclusion score. And we have a list of the top 50 cities. And you can again go to www.avatarinc.com and you will find a report on the top cities for women in India. So that's what we do to make the unseen seen. And thank you once again for this tremendous opportunity of sharing all of this with you. And I'm really hoping that we will have many, many of you partner with us as researchers, as volunteers, because what we do, we are a social enterprise. There is ton-loads of work to be done in this space, so come on board. Thank you so much, and have a fantastic rest of the conference ahead. Thank you.
We thank you, ma'am, for those wonderful insights. As a Gen Z member of the audience, I can attest to be more attached to my phone than my wallet. Thank you for enlightening us on non-conscious biases and walking us through your personal journey of social enterprise that has been the driving force behind your mission. We also congratulate you on all of Avatar's achievements. So, we now open the floor to questions from the audience.
Okay, there's one question back there, and there's, of course, Vidya.
Good morning, ma'am. I'm
Hi.
Seema Das. I'm pursuing my PhD from RITI in the area of gender diversity. And it's my privilege to see you in person and hear you for the second time.
Thank you, Seema. That's so sweet
So,
of
ma'am, while doing my study, I pursued this field because I worked in the Returning Women's Program from SPJMR.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's where my interest in gender diversity
Okay.
started there. So, ma'am, while you're saying that, you have successfully placed second career women, I was very keen to understand what
Yeah.
is the level at which,
Yeah,
you place women.
right.
Because I have heard a number of stories, because middle management and above, I have heard mix. It's a
Yeah.
success story because of few reasons, and most of the time we don't, because it's lateral
True,
placements.
true, absolutely.
So, ma'am, how
Yeah,
is it
sure,
there?
absolutely, great.
Thank you.
So the second career, program journey began in 2006 when Standard Chartered Bank actually kind of, threw the gauntlet at us, as it were. They said, you're constantly talking about this interesting pool of second career women and all that. Where are they? We have 400 positions to close. 180 in the first lot and then another 200 plus in the second lot. Can you bring them? We want to see them. So we said, okay, fine, and we took up the challenge. These were all, largely early career positions. I wouldn't call them entry level, but they were early career positions. And that was truly a big challenge that we faced at that time, in the sense that, while we knew instinctively and here that, there are thousands and thousands of women, but to actually get them to, start thinking on the track of making that comeback and making it successfully. See, we all can do toe dipping. We can all try that and, check that out and then rush back into our space of comfort. But to actually say that, yeah, I took that break, but now here I am, I have changed my mind and I'm now coming back, that requires, a lot of counseling. It requires a lot of reflection on the part of the woman. So ours was a very interesting experience. I'll share that for another day. I don't want to take up too much time. But that was the beginning of the second career movement. So it started with people in the early career stage, largely women with about 2 to 3 years work experience who had taken a break very earlier on in their career. And then they, they had a kid and stuff like that. And then they want to come back. And then they came back. But the delta of the experience ranges or the break ranges that we have placed, is from about 2-3 years of work experience, and then you take a break, and then you have a 2-year break, because 2-year break is only considered as a minimum break. Anything before that, 1 year also is okay, but anything below that is hardly a break. Today, it's not considered that much of a break. So you can say from 1 year to almost 18 years of break, and then women have made a comeback. So it's not that, it's about the levels of women. I would say it's about the skill levels of women rather than the hierarchical levels. So it's about where can a woman find her best avatar or her best position when she makes a comeback. So you could do a complete switch in terms of your skill. You could be in customer service and then you could come back into HR. Or you could be in marketing and you could come back into product development, or something very different. Or you could have had an undergrad in finance and you could come back to it, even though your PG was in management and you did something else. So it's a question of, so this 100,000 is largely because the organizations who we work with, who we have counseled, helped, mentored to hire women, they have been doing it now for the past 10 years, year on year. So that is the reason why these numbers are so big. Also the fact that, when you look at a very, very specific niche into which you want to make a return, it's very difficult. So you have to have a wide arena. You have to have a wide canvas. And you have to say that I'm ready to kind of, take up anything, be a bit flexible about what kind of job option arises, and so on. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you and best wishes.
I think there's someone waiting there.
Thank you, Dr. Raman. The governor has visited us today. And sir is, Thank you, sir, for your time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Vidya, you had a question.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Hello, ma'am. Yeah.
Hi.
In fact, I come from Chennai.
Oh, lovely.
And I represent industry. Of course, I'm doing my part-time PhD. And I'm from the company which has equity as one of our values. And we are also partnering with you, with Putri.
Amazing. Yeah. Which company is
Pfizer.
it?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. You're incredible. I know the kind of wonderful work that you do with Putri. Thank you.
We share, in fact, same values like what you mentioned. Very appreciative of you all, the great work you are doing. In fact, I also talked to, when Putri team came to our organization, I also mentioned we are supporting. But again, one of, I think, primary problems, I think that probably, also should be looked into to address the basics of the issue is, of course, we all are actually trying to help them financially, or giving them probably training required, upskilling them, making them future ready. That's all nice. But again, what's your view, ma'am? And in case if we also have to talk to their parents,
Oh, yes, of course.
economically they are not really ready.
Yes.
Educate them, because as long as they have the ignorance, probably they will not. You don't see support from their side. So what is that we should do?
Yeah.
I mean, organizations like you and maybe companies like us and everyone around. What is your suggestion to lift the awareness of the parents who are also economically backward and who can't really afford?
What a wonderful question. Thank you so much for asking that. At Putri, the core focus initially, so we started off in 2016, as you know. And the first couple of years was very difficult because for us to get permission from the government to enter into all of these corporation and government schools, and interact with the children, that requires a lot of due diligence and a lot of permissions. So that was, very difficult for us in the initial year. Then later on, when we started working with the principal, the HMs and the AHMs and so on, they found how much their life became easy when Putri started, the Putri program started working with the Putri scholars. Because the children started studying so much better. They started applying the principles of team working, problem solving, prioritization, stress management in their, curriculum, in approaching their classes and their exams and so on. And so we started having the HMs and AHMs actually go and recommend us to the government, saying, you know what, whichever project comes or not, please give permission for Project Putri to continue again. So that was so amazing. And then COVID happened. Yeah. So during COVID, physical classes became a no-no. We couldn't go. And then we reached out to organizations like you and so many others who made the big gift of electronic devices. So we were able to take 10,000 electronic devices to our children. And everybody started, attending online classes. And that was when the parents got looped in. So what happened, I'm going to give you this, I'm going to take 1 minute, with your permission, to take this, to give you this example. So in Pondicherry, we have a very rigorous Project Putri happening. And, during one of the conferences, so we have, in fact, very recently, actually yesterday, we concluded a conference in Coimbatore called Udyog Utsav. And Udyog Utsav is this conference for, Putris, which is for young underprivileged girls between 13 to 18, where they learn different kinds of careers which they can pursue. So you have lots of organizations that come and present, and you have about 500 children there, and they go into each stall and they learn about, what that career holds and what they should need to do for that. So this happened virtually during COVID, for all the schools that were part of us and the school children. One particular child in Pondicherry, we had, Udyog Utsav was happening. And then one of our volunteers, one of our mentors had gone across to check, wearing mask and everything, to check if all the children were attending. Because, we have put together the program and all that. And she sent a picture, a photograph. And I must share, how that made me feel. You have this young girl. She is obviously from a deeply underprivileged family. She lives in a chawl, in a single room tenement, and within that house, her laptop, which has been given to her, has been kept in a shelf, and the only chair in that house has been put for her like how you are sitting, and she is watching and interacting, wearing her full uniform, exactly like how each one of us would attend a conference. That was how it was. And when she, she was just sitting there and she's participating and attending. And then after the conference, online conference was over, when we went and spoke to the parents, we asked the parents, what did you think? And they said, I want to see my daughter doing this. I want to see her there, talking to girls like her. Our support for you is just there. And when we asked the young girls, what did you feel about this? They said, till now, before COVID, it was only us learning. Now you come and ask my 8-year-old brother, he'll teach you about team dynamics. because that content is going into their homes. So the parents are now bought in. But you're absolutely right in the sense that a lot more of intervention has to happen. So we have sessions now. Before every crucial exam, we hold a session for the parents. And we tell the parents, because many of the fathers are, they're hardworking laborers. So there's a lot of alcohol abuse that happens, right? So we tell the parents that, this is the time when she's preparing for an exam, her 8th standard exam, her, final exam, or her quarterly, or even her 12th standard. And we need you to focus. We need you to focus. Please make sure that she gets her time, she gets that space. And now we are seeing a huge change in the way socio-economically this Putri program is causing, a big ripple effect in families that are there. And now on the back of this, we have launched another program called Mitra. It's still in the very, fledgling stages, so I don't have much to talk about it. But what Mitra is doing is it is targeting young adolescent boys in the maximum crime-prone localities. And we are talking to those boys and we are helping them become male allies. We are helping them become gender champions. So the Mitra stands for Men Impacting Trust and Respect. So thank you so much for asking.
Amazing work.
I know that Dil Mange Mood, but I think you also have another meeting. Just one question from my end.
Please.
Your passion, energy, vibrancy is so infectious. Every day morning when you get up, what is your driving force?
So first of all, I'm not saying this because I want to build my Twitter community. Okay? The first thing I do is I put out a Kalai Vanakkam. So Kalai Vanakkam is good morning in Tamil. So Kalai Vanakkam, and then there is a thought that I put over there. Invariably, that thought is triggered by something I am experiencing. And one of the things I've realized is, and I think that's because beautiful side effect of working in the space of diversity, equity, and inclusion. It helps us really be rooted. It helps us stay grounded and helps us do our system 2 thinking. We are going around telling everybody we should do that, right? So Kalai Vanakkam is one place where it really gives me that sense, and there's a big fan following for that. Subtle hint, right? Okay, so that's it. Thank you. Thank you so much. So lovely being with all of you. Have a wonderful conference. I'm now going to invite Darshana to do the honors with regard to 2 prizes that KJS has won. Just a minute.
Thank you, ma'am. So team, all of you, yes, first of all, I also have a small thing to say before this one. So ma'am has told you how to make the unseen seen, but we want to know how to, whatever we see, how to act on it, right? So that's the next step, because we have seen that, now to act on it. What we are doing, we have brought in a tool like a survey, okay? So I would request all the researchers whoever has come in to take that survey. So it's primarily to help you to pivot the strategy for D&I for your institution. So whichever help we can do in that, so for us to help you in that, we want to understand. So that is, this QR code will be circulated amongst yourself. Myself and my colleague, we are stationed outside. So if you want any help, any discussion to do in this, we are happy to help. So now this is on acting on the scene part, because you have already seen these things, okay? Now coming to the second bit of it, we had conducted a competition called Diversathon, okay? So this was a paper presentation competition for students, and we had 11 institutions, including XLRI, TIS, KJ Somaya, and so on, participating with around 50 students. Now, we, as you all know, KJ Somaya is one of the runners-up. You would have known the announcement has gone in. We would like to take this forum, because ma'am is here, we would like to facilitate the winners here. So Prajyoti and Gauri Mishra onto the stage. Congratulations to you. These students spoke on how important DI is for educational institutions, and it was a pleasure for us to hear it from students themselves. So here they are. Congratulations once again. So being inspired by them, next edition of Diversathon, I want all of you to participate, please. So thank you, ma'am. Thank you once again. I'll hand it over to the students on the stage.
We now call upon Professor Vidya Thakkar to propose the vote of thanks.
Very good morning to everybody. I will not take much time at all because we have our next activity lined up. First and foremost, thank you so much, ma'am. How I connected with them itself is a kind of research. I was writing to a lot of people, requesting them, asking them if they have time to come and grace the occasion here. And I was so impressed because my area of research and my love is all towards career building for youngsters, for women especially. So I was so impressed. So because of my personal liking, I connected with her and they immediately accepted. And it has been a beautiful journey since January last year till now. And I'm sure this is going to continue. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being here and for the wonderful speech that you have, address that you have given. Each and every sentence you spoke has had a deep impact on me, and I'm sure this has had the same impact on everybody else. I will have a long word of thanks tomorrow, but I would definitely like to thank Shailja ma'am for trusting that I would be able to take on this conference, and suddenly with Megha leaving in between, she kept her trust on, and I'm extremely happy that Nikhil joined and we make a great team. Thankfully, there has been no drama till now, and I'm sure there's going to be no drama till tomorrow. Thank you, ma'am, for trusting. As I said, tomorrow will be the longer vote of thanks. I request all of you to join us for tea and then come back for Axis Bank workshop, which will start in another 10-15 minutes.
If you could hold on for just a second. We call upon Professor Shailaja Karve to present a small token of our appreciation to Dr. Rajesh. The token is a Wali painting made by the tribals, and the proceeds will be going to its beneficiaries.
On behalf of KJ Somaiya Institute of Management, I thank you all for taking the time to attend this session. We will now take a short tea break and reconvene after 15 minutes. Thank you.